Hello, I'm Melonie at the Vancouver Yoga Center in Vancouver, Washington, and I'm putting together this short video on how to do yoga in a chair. So I have had many students that their family members maybe are in a wheelchair or they just can't move as well and stand with fairly good balance. So they're always asking me things that they could offer their family members that would be simple enough. So maybe your grandparents or parents that are a little bit more immobile. So these are lovely exercises that they could do. They are also exercises that you could do at a desk at work as well. The first half of them will be a little bit more gentle, and then they'll progressively get more challenging. So you may only be able to do the first portion and then slowly work up over time to doing the latter part of the class. Always honor your own body, move with what feels good, pause when you need to pause, and of course don't do some of the moves if it feels like you're not ready for that. So let's start with just some simple breathing to begin. So mostly in yoga we're breathing in and out through the nostrils, but you may have to breathe through the mouth if there's congestion, and that's fine. Let's take a few moments just to close the eyes and get a little bit more sensory awareness of our breath. So as you close the eyes, notice the breath coming, if possible, in through the nostrils, out through the nostrils. And this allows us to slow the breath down and to warm it for the body, to purify it for the body. It also allows you to hear the sound of your breath a bit more too. And this becomes a little bit more drawing our awareness into the moment. So the breath becomes our meditation, our moving meditation as we move our bodies in our yoga practice. So as you're now doing this breath, and if you can't do it through the nostrils, then you're going to do it through the mouth. Let's lengthen our breath so that your in-breath is at least about 4 seconds long. And your exhale is about 8 seconds long if you can get there, or you work up to as close to that as you can get. 4 seconds on the in-breath. And 8 seconds on the exhale. And you may try to feel the breath in the different regions of the body. So you're breathing, you might feel it in the lower abdomen ribs, the midsection, the upper section. And then when you breathe out, are all of those areas also relaxing and softening. And it's not only just our front body that we breathe side body, we breathe back body, we breathe up, we breathe down. It's a surround breath. So the breath goes in that good 4 seconds, and then the breath goes out about 8 seconds. Let's do one more of those. 4 seconds in. And 8 seconds out. And then let your breath relax to its natural length, whatever is its natural length. And you might be going at a different breath pattern than me, and that's okay. You'll sync up with your own rhythm here in a little bit. But the movements now are going to be very simple, very gentle, just starting with what we call neck exercises. So you'll take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, you slowly bow the head towards the floor, towards the heart. And you're noticing sensations and feelings in the back of the neck. Inhale, draw the head up and back. And only as back as far as feels comfortable for you in this moment. And exhale, you bow, head to the heart. And inhale up and back. So again, your breath might be longer than mine, it might be shorter than mine. You make it your own. And exhale, you bow again. You might get light snap, crackles, and pops, hearing some sounds of things realigning and readjusting. Don't be so worried about that. Inhale up and back. And And last time, exhale and bow. Then your next breath, bring your head back to center. And then exhale, look over one shoulder. And inhale, look over the other shoulder. Exhale to one side. You just might notice, is this the easier side? Do you move a little more freely on this side? Inhale to the other, or maybe it's this other side. That's your good side. Exhale to one side. And inhale to the other. Keeping the chin fairly parallel to the floor so we're not looking down or excessively up as we do the motion. Exhale to one side. Inhale to the other. Let's do one more. The exhale, exhale to one side. And then inhale back to center. And as you exhale, take one ear to one shoulder. But you're not letting the shoulder help, it's just the ear that moves. Inhale the other ear to the other shoulder. And again, that same kind of investigation. Exhale to one side. How far does it go? Is this the easier side or the more challenged side? Just to be curious. Inhale to the other. Exhale to one side. The shoulders often like to help, so you're going to keep softening those as you go. Inhale the other side. Exhale to one side. And now let's pause here and check in. Are the shoulders trying to help out, and can you soften? Just let them drop. Maybe even take the opposite hand. So if your ear's to one side, it would be the stretch of the neck. That arm stretches down to the floor. Depending on your chair, you might have something to give a little grab a hold of and a little tug. Not excessive, but just enough to heighten the stretch on that side and to deepen the breath again. Then your next breath, bring the head to center, hand to center. Exhale the head over to the other side. Soften the shoulders. Send that arm that's getting the stretch all the way through the neck down. And maybe you got a chair leg or a chair seat, or you just stretch the fingers in that direction. Trying to imagine the arm growing longer as you tip over to the other side. Smooth breaths go in, if possible, through the nostrils. Full breaths go out through the nostrils, if possible. And then your next breath, bring the head to center and hand to center. And as you exhale, bow the head and then start to bow the upper portion of the ribs and then the heart. Then below the heart, and then into the belly button, and it's all curving the front body inward. And then with your next in-breath, open the front body. And let the heart lift, let the shoulders open, the head gently back to what degree it feels possible and comfortable. And exhale, the head goes, and it's all the little vertebrae of your spine curving and doing their full range of motion. Inhale, opening. The belly opens, the heart opens, the throat opens. Exhale, and the head goes. Neck vertebrae go. The upper sternum, heart center, mid back, low back. And at the very end, you might find yourself tucking your tailbone a little. And then inhale, opening again. Belly lifts, heart lifts, throat open, heart opens. So your front body is in a big stretch. And then when you exhale, you bow, and then the back body's in a big stretch. And one more. Inhale, opening front body. And exhale, closing the front body. And then inhale back to center. And scooch forward so you're sitting right at the edge of your seat, and plant your feet so they're right underneath the knees, and the bones and line them basically up with each other. So about hips width apart, underneath the knees, and I'm sitting at the edge of the seat. Then you're going to reach back and grab some part of the chair, and if you don't have a back part of the chair, maybe you're just holding the base of the chair. But if you have something to grab on to, you'll draw your hands to the side, work them up as high as you can. The higher up, it's going to be more challenging. The lower down, it's going to be a little bit more easy. So you hold where you can. Now the shoulders, this front rounded bit of the shoulder, likes to often pop forward. So we're going to take that rounded bit, the head of the arm bone we call it, or draw it up a moment, which might make you seem like you're lengthening the sides of your ribs. Then we're going to take that bone back, so in the back plane. Now the front of the chest is more open, and the shoulder blades in the back, you might start to notice them come closer together. So as you go up and back, shoulder blades come a little together. Now take all of that's in the middle and draw it more forward, like you were in that part of the opening the chest a moment ago and closing, but here's the open part. So you're going to lean forward. You're going to let the heart lead the way, like you got a string attached to it, until the arms are straight, and you're just kind of sinking into the spine. Here my pelvis is tipped a little forward. I've got an even curvature through the spine, and the roll of the shoulders and the shoulder blades on the back. Then you can use your breath a little bit. Sometimes by taking a deep breath in, I kind of stretch out the place that I was curved. And then with the exhale, I curve more. I sink more into that curve. Now here, we're working a little bit the spine and getting into the shoulders and the upper back a bit more. So big breaths in. You might find yourself kind of coming a little out of it, and then with the exhale, swooping your heart into it. I'll let the breath create some of the motion, but sometimes I'll even add a little extra side bend here, side bend there, maybe a little bow of the head and some movements of the neck, tugs in ways and areas I'm maybe just not getting to throughout the day. So opening the front body, tugging where we are having an urge to tug. Big breaths in, full breaths out. And then come back up and scooch now into the middle of the chair and take your feet wider than the chair and fold over and touch the floor. Now sometimes the floor isn't there, and if you have some other object, a book or a yoga block, various different settings, whatever you need to be able to touch that to get you closer to the floor. But if you can touch the floor, great. And then with your in-breath, you're going to think of the spine elongating, the crown of the head elongating. And then with the exhale, start to bend your elbows. Even if you are on the block, you bend the elbows and you bow the heart and you bow the head towards the floor. With the in-breath, you lengthen. And with the exhale, you bow. Almost now curving over the edge of the chair. In-breath, lengthen, you uncurve, you stretch out the spine. Then with the exhale, you're going to give a little bow as you bow. Another lovely variation is walk your arms out in front. And if your hands never touch the floor, maybe it's the block that you stretch out in front. And then I imagine that all my arms are attached to the lower back, and all of that is getting a stretch from my lower back out through my fingers, tugging in that direction. Breath in, lengthen spine. Breath out, bow and fold inside. Breath in through the nostrils, 3, 4 seconds if possible, and breath out, maybe even twice as long as that. And then walk my way back up and bring the legs so they're just more neutral. Feet in line with the knees, hips width apart. We'll move that out of the way for now. And then take your one hand to either the chair leg. Now you may not have a chair leg. You could have a block again or some object on the side to touch down into. Send the other arm up long. And again, I pretend that my arms are not just attached to the shoulder, but all the way down to the hips. So I'm really lengthening the rib cage, the side bodies. and then tip over to that side. Now, as I go to the one side, I might find my hip coming off the ground as well. Can I keep the hip on the ground, work the rib cage as it's growing long over to that side? So we call that a pin and stretch. You're pinning one part down, but then you're elongating and stretching out the other parts. Nothing's ever static, so with every breath, there might be a little coming out of the pose, and then with every exhale, a little diving into it deeper. So you've got either the block at its various different settings, you've got the chair leg, whichever chair leg is easiest for you to hold onto, that you can slide down to make it deeper. Big in breath, full out breath, side bending. Full in breath, full out breath. And then with your next breath, come back up, and there's the other side. So the other arm stretches up, and you're thinking, not just pulling at my shoulder, but I want to elongate that whole side of the body, and then take all of that over to the side and touch whatever I can find to grab a hold of there. And pinning the hip, I'm going to keep lifting my body up and over to the side. And magnify the breath again, because every breath is what's really creating those subtler motions inside your body. Nothing's ever static, and I'm never trying to force myself into any shape or look of a pose. I'm imagining that the pose is kind of growing its shape from the inside out. And I'm working the feel of, like, where do I feel a little tightness, a little tugs on this body suit that I inhabit. And then your next breath, come back up. Now take one arm and rest it across your legs. Send the other arm by your ear again. That same quality of, I'm going to lengthen my whole side of my body. Lengthen, twist to that same side that your arm is by your ear. Turn the belly, turn the heart. It's a light peeking underneath the arm. Big breath in. Full breaths out. Sometimes with every exhale, I get a little bit more turn, rotation, twist in the spine, in the middle. And your next breath, come back up. Switch to the other side. So now the other arm will cross over, and then arm by the ear, then turn your belly and heart to that same side that the arm's by your ear and start twisting. Belly turns, heart turns, upper clavicles turn. I'm not straining my neck to look to the sky, but I might give a little light peek to the sky. And breath goes in, and breath goes out. I might still imagine lengthening from the hip out through the arm as I turn. And then next breath, come back up, back to neutral. So like we had this wide forward bend, you could do one leg straight out. You might need the blocks for these or something to support you a little bit more. But as one leg's out, I'm at the edge of my seat again. One leg's bent, and it could be bent wider to accommodate more body to fit in the spaces in between. You bow over, and you either touch the floor or you touch the blocks again. And remember, you could walk out or you can stay where you are. For me, I can take this leg a little closer because I'm just matching it up with my outer rib. Wherever I am there, lengthening out, bending the elbows to bow the spine, the crown of the head more forward, or downward, I should say, towards the leg. Again, you could be up here. You might find you need to be higher than that. You need to be up here to be able to bow over. You'll likely feel it in the calf, the hamstring. It is a spinal stretch too, so those that are tight in their back might feel a little bit there as well. The tip is at the pelvis, tipping forward. It's like I'm sticking my tail back behind me rather than my tail tucked underneath me. So the tail pointing straight back. Breath in and breath out. Breath in, lengthening, crown of the head, spine, heart, breath out, bowing. And then come back up, switch your sides. Now the other leg goes out. One leg's bent, could be bent wide again. The other foot, if you can put the toes up with the heel on the ground, you might get a little bit extra calf stretch. So that's just another variation. It could be foot pointed as well. That's fine. Just a little deeper this way. And get tall. Think of tipping my pelvis forward so that the tail faces back rather than tucking under, sitting on my tail, being a little more rounded and shortened, and then trying to go into this. So I get tall first, I tip forward, and then my body naturally kind of wants to fall in that direction. I might touch the floor, could be more advanced, and I walk further out. I might need blocks for some, and even just if you don't need them, it's kind of just a nice extra support and variation. So lengthen out. Bend the elbows, bow it forward. Elongate spine, crown of head, bend the elbows, fold it over. Smooth breath in, full breath out. Smooth breath in, and full breath out. Then bring yourself back up. You might set these to the side. And turn your whole body to one side. So you're sitting to the side of the chair. And facing that direction that you are now, stay there with your hips and knees, get tall in the spine again. Then turn your heart to face the back of the chair. And if you have a backrest of the chair, you could grab a hold of the backrest with one hand on each side. With every in-breath, there might be a natural tendency to unwind you out of the pose. Allow for that to happen. That's actually where we'll get a little more length. And then with every exhale, you're going to wind back into the pose and give that little squeeze at the end of the line. So with your in-breath, you might give a little more ease, a little slack, come slightly unwinding, get a little taller, and then with the exhale, wind back into it again. And just see along the chain where you get a little more restrictions, what's not moving, what parts are moving, just paying attention to what your body is doing. Full breath in and full breath out. And then turn it back to face the knees and go to the other side. Turn the whole body. So knees, hips, heart is all facing the same plane to start with. The knees and hips stay in that plane. You'll get tall. With the exhale, turn the middle. A little bit of belly, a lot of the heart, because that's often where we're stickier. A lot of this upper part of the clavicle. Hold on to the back rest of the chair. Big breath long again. And exhale, turning into the edges. You find the end point, the sticky point. With the in-breath, be a little gentler, allow there to be a little ease, so you might slightly unwind, but in the unwinding, you get taller. And then with the exhale, you turn more deeply into it. You wind more deeply into it. Big breath in, create some slack in the line, and then exhale and turn. And one more breath. And then you turn back to neutral, back to the front again. Let's do the first side again, but this time a little different. So you'll start with both feet, knees pointing straight forward, but take this outside hip off the edge of the seat of the chair. So you've only got one sit bone on the chair. That outside sit bone and leg, take it back. Now for you, back might just be toes pointed, knee pointing to the floor. And if that's the case, I'll just think of a little length out of this hip, and a little length up through the spine. If I have the ability to, I'll curl the toes. Not everybody's toes can do that. We want them to do that over time. That's my feet yoga class. We'll get that over time. But if you can, then you'll start to straighten the leg out. You'll lengthen back through the hamstrings, back through the calf, and I imagine that there is a baseboard right at that heel and I can push into that baseboard. Then as that goes back, I'm going to get tall again. That might be my work here. Maybe my hand touches my thigh and the other hand touches the chair, or I might be touching the seat here, or maybe another chair out here if I need to. And then as I lengthen, more advanced, lengthen up, turn your heart back to that back of the chair again. And the more I do that, the more this back leg wants to buckle. So I might allow it to buckle, or I'll work against it a little and make it a little longer while I lift, while I twist. Long back leg. I might slightly unwind out as I inhale. Keep the back leg and wind the heart, the spine back into it with your exhale. It's a little more advanced move, so it might not be for everybody. It just depends on what your fitness level is. It might be one that you add into the mix. Take one more full breath. And then exhale, turn the upper body to face the knee that's in front. Then gently pull that back leg forward. Then turn to the other side. And here, I get the outer hip off the seat of the chair. I take that leg, if I can. It's here, that's plenty. If I can though, I'll curl the toes and straighten the leg. And I imagine growing long out of that sit bone, through the calf, through the heel. Then get tall. That's plenty right there. Or turn the belly, the heart, hold the back of the chair. With the in-breath, I get a little tall. To get that, I might have to come a little unwound out of the pose. And then with the exhale, I wind back into the pose. Buckling of the back leg might happen for more advanced students. You're going to keep it long as you turn. Full breath in, full breath out. So as I said, the latter part of this class now is going to go into a little bit more challenging variations that may not be suitable for the very immobile or those who are wheelchair bound. This variation and the ones to come may not be for you. Then gently unwind the heart, draw the back leg back up, face the front again. Sit about the middle of the seat. I know there are tendencies to sit way back and kind of hang out in the back of our seat, but if we can sit more in the middle and start to work more of our core to hold ourselves up rather than the back of our chair to hold ourselves up. And so now that you're in the middle, you've also got a little more space back here for the next thing that we're going to do. Cross one foot over a knee, so you're what we call eye of the needle pose. It's this diamond shape with your shin. And I like to flatten the foot, flex the foot, rather than sometimes it likes to overstretch on the outer part, and sometimes that gives me a not so good sensation at the knees. So if I hold the foot a little bit more firm, more neutral, so it's not rotating one way or the other, it's more steady, then it gives more stability to the knee as well. Then the pelvis, I'm going to do that tuck under, like we did early at the beginning where we rounded the spine, and then tip forward where we open the front body and arch the spine, and just do a few of those. You might notice as you go back into the rounded position, that's easier to do for most, but when you start tipping forward, we start to get into all the sensations of the hips. And that might be a little more challenging, but that's the work we want to do. We roll back, and we tip forward. We'll do one more of those. And we roll back. That's a bow of the head, a bow of the heart, round into the lower back. And then we tip forward, pelvis goes, and then my body goes. And then I'm actually going to lean forward. And for me, I might rest on the forearms. More advanced students might rest their chest on the leg, or even attempt to try to reach to the floor in some fashion or another, just to give a little more stretch to it. So that could be whatever variation you choose. whatever allows you to keep your breath even and steady. So if you find yourself in a position and you're just really holding your breath or fighting to be able to breathe, you're probably too far into the pose, and back it off a little bit. So big breath goes in, and big exhale, you might find yourself melting into another layer of it a little deeper. Big breath in, and exhale, bowing into it a little deeper. Now, hips are one of those areas where we definitely feel how different we are side to side. We'll come back up, untangle that side, go to the other side. So there's often, quite universally, about a 30% difference from one hip to the other. So we wear our body differently in how we walk and how we stand throughout the day. So I'm a little stickier on this side. So a little trick that I do is I try to grab the sit bones. I give them a little widening apart, and that helps a little bit. And then again, the work of the pelvis, this rounding and arching of the pelvis, helps to lubricate around that hip a bit, gets it warmed up for this deeper stretch. So bow the head, round the upper back, mid back, low back, and then tip forward the pelvis, goes forward, and then the rest of you will want to go forward too. And then we tip back, and I hold more of a firmness to the foot, and then we tip forward. So all the motion's really now just happening at the pelvis. Roll back and tip forward. Other parts of the body go along, but first it's the pelvis, the gears of the pelvis rolling back, and the gears of the pelvis rolling forward. I like to think of them like gears, like they're circular in some fashion. Roll back. And then tip forward. This time that you tip forward, you're leading with your pelvis, then the rest of you goes, and it just goes to wherever your stop point is. Could be, again, arms resting on the leg, firming the foot. Could be the heart resting on the leg. Could be the arms reaching out, if that adds a little deeper stretch for you. You could hug it in whatever fashion feels interesting and good. Big in-breath. As long as you're able to keep that breath flowing, and full out breath. If I do encounter a place that's a little tighter and I'm more resistive and I'm wanting to fight it or wanting to hold the breath, I'll just back off a notch and just try to keep the breath even throughout. And then maybe I can keep the breath steady as I go to the edges of that experience of that pose. And then come back up, unwind. So the next portion will be standing. So you have to have the ability to stand. So of course, if you're in a wheelchair, this won't work. This will be the part where you turn the camera off or TV off. And for others that are able to, we'll have the support of the chair. So even if you're a little bit wobbly and balance isn't your strong suit, you'll have the chair to hold on for most of the work. So we come to standing. We're going to turn our chair. So I have a yoga mat here, so I'm going to take it to one end of the yoga mat, and I have the back of it facing towards me. And then I'm going to hold on with my hands as wide apart on the seat of the chair as possible, and I walk back about, let's say, 4 feet or so. I want to make a 90-degree angle with my upper body in one plane and my legs in the other. So I don't want to be too far back. Not that that's wrong, it would just be a different stretch. And that might be a stretch that's kind of lovely to experience today. But more classically, I'm going to have the feet right underneath the hips. And I'm going to be just drop and collapse at the top of the shoulders here. So I might actually keep them a little more elevated. And yet I want my spine to be what sinks a little, melts a little. And that's a bit more advanced to differentiate shoulders from spine. It's a different thing. So if anything, if you're feeling tension in the shoulders, you're just going to look above the chair, and that should take off some of the tension in the shoulders. If you're more advanced, then you can look down to the floor. And then glue your feet so they don't move, but bend one knee and straighten the other. And you'll get a hip reaching back, a side waist long, maybe a little twisty turn. That will occur as well. And steady the breath again. So I'm warming up the legs a bit more, getting into the outer hips, trying to elongate the spine and work some of my upper back to get a little bit more pliable, a little bit more flexible. And then, now I'll look above the chair a bit so it gives us a little more steadiness, and take one foot forward towards the seat of the chair and glue that foot to the ground. Let's keep this back foot just like it is, the back leg straight, and slowly start to bend the front leg. And you bend it to what degree you can bend it. And if it's very easy for you, you might go longer with the back foot. But for most, we're going to feel a stretch in the back calf muscle. A smooth breath in here, and full breaths out here. Now my tendency might be to be a little more forward, and that's okay too. For most of these right here, I'm going to be feeling more of a stretch in the back calf, so if that gives you that stretch and that's plenty fine for you, that's great. If you go up higher, it might put a little bit more load and you might feel a little bit more of an intensity, but it also might cause you to straighten the front leg and be a little out of the pose there. So just being aware of that. Now this position, if we just change it a little, becomes another pose. So we turn the back foot. So now the toes are pointing a little bit more in the opposite direction as my front foot. This one I can go actually a little bit longer in my stride. And I'm going to bend this front knee to 90 degrees. So knee and toes point that way. Knee and toes point that way of that foot. Now that I'm more upright, we call this more warrior two. You could take an arm out to the side. The front knee is going to want to veer inward, so you're going to keep trying to point the knee so it points straight forward in the center of that foot. And a lot of these can be from one to the next. They're just natural progressions of the pose, or different poses. So warrior two, we call this. Then you can straighten the front leg, reach either to the sky or alongside the ear. I like the alongside the ear variation because it gives me this sense of working this whole line of the body to be deeper. You can take the other hand onto the seat of the chair. And now we're in what we call triangle pose, which will be a bit more of a stretch for the inner part of the legs for most people. If you're feeling unsteady, you take a shorter stride. If you are feeling more brave and wild and adventurous, you wiggle the back foot a little further out. But whatever you get into, you got to get out of. So just be cautious of that if you go too far. And again, front knee might want to veer inward. You're going to keep the knee in that same direction as that front foot, although the belly and heart can face in the same direction as the back foot. And breath goes in, and breath goes out. And to come out, we might bend the front knee first to give us a little bit more ease of pushing into our feet. Come back up so you're tall on the top of that chair, and then turn the back foot in again. And step back towards the chair and reverse the legs. Take the other leg back. It might be a good 3-4 feet at the most. The back heel stays touching the ground, and relatively both feet are straight forward. And then you bend the front knee to what degree you can while you feel a stretch, for most of us, in the back leg. And I get tall, or it's okay to lean forward. And if that actually deepens the stretch for you in that back calf, then great. Allow it to be there in the variation of the pose. To change it up a little, the back foot, you start to turn so the toes point out. You can go a little bit longer. So now you have one foot that's pointing straight towards the chair, the other foot that's pointing away to the opposite wall. And bend to 90 degrees of the front leg. Bring your torso more over you. Turn your heart to face what is, for me, this wall, this back wall. And flip the other arm out. Maybe you have balance and you do both arms out. Totally fine to stay attached to the chair though. And smooth the breath again. Full breath goes in, full breath goes out. Track your front knee towards the chair, towards the center of that front foot. Then I straighten this front leg. Back leg stays straight. Top arm alongside the ear. I might shift down to a lower portion of the chair. And I'm going to turn the belly and heart to face that back wall a bit more. Top arm is decoration. Maybe you bring it alongside the ear. Now for some folks, they might even feel like they could go a little longer in the stride. I'll leave that up to you, what you feel balance-wise is doable for you. And bend the front knee. Come upright, turn the back foot. Come to step up to the chair, and then step away maybe about a foot or two from the chair itself, and then start to do heel raises. And as you lift up, you've got the big toe, all the 4 other little toes, that whole base of the toes, the ball of the foot, you're going to keep on the ground as you do the heel raises. And then if you're feeling balance-wise more doable, maybe you take one hand away, maybe take the other away, or you touch with one finger. As you come up, the feet might want to wobble to and fro. And come up, try to hold the middle steady, so it's just a straight up and a straight down without a falling out to the side and falling back in. It's straight up, straight down, straight up, straight down. One more, straight up, straight down. Then turn your chair the other way. This is a bit more of an advanced move, so this might be one that you X out of the sequence, unless you're more advanced. I step away about 3 feet or so from the chair, and I take one foot on the seat, but it's off to the side of the seat of the chair. This back foot is slightly turned out and stays on the ground as I bend the front knee. That could be the work right there, or you reach out and find some part of the seat, chair back, seat, whatever you can. I'm a little bit more flexible, so I'm going to turn my front foot a little more out, take the foot even more off the edge. My knee and toes I want to point in the same direction. So since I'm going to be going deeper, my knee is going to want to go more out to the side. I'm just going to keep my knee and toes in the same direction. And then I'm going to sink a little deeper through the front thigh and lower down to forearms. At any point if the back knee is not happy, I'll lift the heel and point all the toes and knees straight forward. If the front knee is not happy, it's either probably because it's too far out, or most likely the foot and the knee are not in the same plane. For instance, you might be trying to keep your toes straight forward, but your knees going out to the side. So allow them to point in the same plane. I'll walk back up. I'll press this leg straight to lean me back, so now I'm safely over that back foot, and then I'll take that foot off and do the other side. And sometimes we have one leg a little longer or shorter than the other, so you might have to cinch it in a little closer if this is your short leg. And then I bend the front knee. Now if I looked at the back foot, it's going to be slightly turned out, opposed to just everything pointing straight forward. That's if the heel's on the ground. If I choose to lift the heel off the ground, then I can have everything pointing straight forward. But it'll be a slight turnout. The front foot a slight turnout. I bend, I'm sinking at this front thigh, and I touch wherever I could touch on the seat of the chair. We have these blocks as well, that you might go to that block, or you might rest your forearm on the block, or any of those phases. You just take layers, layer by layer. How far can you go? And then we can come back up, arms straight, straightening the front leg. I lean back till the weight's over that back foot, and then I come back off the chair. So that concludes our practice for today on the chair. There's more things that we could do, but that's just a simple, most of it's simple way to get started on doing some basic yoga. There's a lovely resting pose that we could take where I have, if you have a chair like this, folding chair, it's got the sides to it and the back is pretty open. I turn the back of it to face towards me and I come to rest on the floor. So this is optional if you want to take a little relaxation at the end of this video. So I put the legs through the chair, I scooch in close, and I'm in close, and my legs can relax out to the sides of the chair. So if I do end up falling asleep in this position, you've got the legs of the chair holding your legs. Palm upward, shoulders melting towards the floor, maybe a little wiggle to wiggle out your lower back, and sinking and softening into that. And then just work with that count of the breath again. The 4 seconds in and the 8 seconds out. And every time our mind wanders, and it will, you just return it back to the breath. You're welcome to continue to rest for as long as you like.